to India and Ireland, round Africa and back again. We don't really need to know just where we'll go. Maybe Canada, then to Brazil, then through the Alpine foothills. All I really want to know is, can we go? Oh baby, can we go? Round and around the globe.
Welcome to Take Me With You, episode 33. I'm Ryan,
And I'm Cheryl. We are two well-traveled people who want to go everywhere.
but that's not going to happen. So instead, we'll travel vicariously by inviting a guest to share their unique travel stories with us.
But this summer, we're taking a little bit of a break from guests, and we are doing a travel tips series. Last week, we talked about packing light, and this is kind of a part 2 to that. This week, we are talking about our packing lists. And those
Yes.
things go hand in hand.
Very
So-
much so.
I think we should start by just saying, why should you even have a packing list?
Yeah, great question. And I think we answered some of that partially last week. So if you haven't heard last week's episode on packing light, probably want to jump back a week and listen to that one. But as a nice little summary, there were a couple of reasons. One of the reasons to have a packing list is it helps you pack light. So you only pack the things on your list. So you're not packing just whatever you seem inspired to bring in the moment.
Absolutely. I would say it also helps with not feeling overwhelmed by the prospect of packing, which I think a lot of people are. And
Oh, for sure.
So I would say really taking the time to look at a list and process what you're bringing, and then also for the next trip to not have to reinvent that is really nice. Ryan and I are both really big fans of digital record keeping, digital
Yes.
documentation in the form of many Google products that we like a lot.
Yep.
And so that's great, because then you say, well, 2 years ago I went on this trip, to this city, and now I'm planning a similar trip to a different city, but it's kind of a similar format. And then, well, it's just great to pull up that document and say, well, what did I pack last time? And
Yeah.
so saving that is, I think, a really key part of that process as
I
well.
completely agree. Yeah, I also think, too, for me, who I guess I could say is a somewhat paranoid packer, I'm always afraid that I'm going to forget something. Like, for example, I will regularly, not necessarily as much now, but I used to, before every trip, I would have a dream that I forgot my passport and I was at the airport and didn't have my passport. I don't think I did the most recent couple of trips, but I always have that as this fear in the back of my mind. And so I will check to make sure that I have my passport probably 10 times between the morning or whatever time it is that I'm leaving my house to actually getting to the airport and checking in. Because I'm just like, wait, I'm now in the car. Did my passport make it with me into the car? Okay, now I've stepped out of the car. Do I still have my passport with me? Did I put it somewhere? Did I set it down? And I know it's silly, but so for me, that's another thing that a list provides, is that security that, if I packed everything that was on my list, I didn't forget something. Right? Like, I don't just have to remember, wait, what are all the things that I need? And kind of like you were saying, Cheryl, with having that digitally, and I'm just going to go ahead and go out there and say it. I use Google Keep for most of my list needs, and one of which is a travel list, because it's on it's free because it's with Google, and then I also have the app on my phone. And so if I'm just out wherever and something comes to my mind, it's like, ooh, I need to make sure I don't forget whatever that thing is, I can just pull out my phone, add it to my list, and then it's done. And I don't have to worry about, when I get home, I need to remember to grab this thing, or, I have to remember to go to the store to get this thing, because I've already added it to my list and it's all in one place.
Yeah. And Ryan, I really wish that you had gotten commission on the number of people that you have what's the right word?
Evangelized?
Evangelize about Google Keep, because you were the one that first told me about it. And
That's
if
right,
this
I
were
forgot.
a good old fashioned pyramid scheme, I've told so many people about Google Keep. I'm a big Google Keep evangelist. And so, man, if you were getting commissioned for that, you'd be rolling in the dough.
Yeah.
It is such a good app. The website version's really good too,
Yep.
and then the
Yep.
app version, like both versions are good. You can do shared lists. You can
Yep.
actual check off boxes, which is so
Yep.
satisfying.
But then in addition to checking off the boxes, it keeps them in a checked off state. So you can go back through and uncheck them and put them back into your list.
Yeah.
Which is what I do with my travel list. Like as I'm packing, I'm checking those things off and saying, yep, those things are there. But then I have the record for the next trip, like you were saying. And yeah, one of the things just to be aware of, since we're talking about Google Keep anyway, it's pretty basic. It doesn't endeavor to do big complicated things. It doesn't, like, you can't put due dates on things, or there's not a lot of organization that you can do within a particular list necessarily, but that's by design. It's intended to be very streamlined and very straightforward. You can do lists, you can put pictures in, I think you can even do audio clips, you can write on things briefly, but it's not a big, like, it's not like a OneNote replacement, for example, or Evernote or something like that. It's not that comprehensive, and it's not intended to be. It's for quick use, easy access, keep it for a long time.
Yeah, I'm an event planner, and I would never use Google Keep to plan one of my events because of all those reasons. But for my ongoing grocery list, where I mean, when I was living up in the mountains and my fiance would come visit me, I would just like add things to the list, and he would go to the grocery store and get them. And so that like shared capability was really nice. And right before we started recording, we were talking about if we categorize our packing list. I do, and you do not. But Google Keep does do tabs, like an indented tab now on their list, so things can be under categories. Did you know that?
Tell me more about this.
It's kind of hard to do sometimes. You have to like drag it to the right slightly.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I do remember seeing that.
And that's really nice because
there you go.
So
that's
now,
big.
Ryan, now you could categorize your
Now
Google
I could
Keep
categorize, because we were talking about it, and yes, that's the biggest reason why I haven't categorized is because there wasn't an easy way to do it on Google Keep.
So I have my packing list on Google Drive. So Google, how much are you going to pay us for this episode? And so it's one of their spreadsheets, and I just have different columns of different categories, and I put a little X into a box next to the item after I pack it. I still can access this on my phone, which is great, but Google Keep is way smoother to use on a phone than I would say the spreadsheets
for sure.
app. It's a little clunky, but I can still if I need to. But just for me at this point, that's what I've had, and it is nice to be able to, on Google Drive, I have different folders for different trips I am taking, where maybe I'm saving all of the like electronic tickets that I have, or, different travel information, or if I have a schedule itinerary of some sort, that's all saved there. And so to have that packing list in that location is nice. And so that's what I've done with mine so far. But honestly, I might be converting it to a Google Keep at some point. And when I make smaller trip packing lists, I've done Google Keep. And so, yeah. So this might sound a little bit overwhelming to somebody if they haven't done a packing list before or haven't developed one that they're really happy with. Yeah. And so I guess what we could do is share how we have developed ours. And then we're actually just going to list everything we pack, because the listeners are dying to know, Ryan. So.
I'm sure they are dying to know. Yes.
So
what is it that you pack?
It was funny because one thing that you and I, one person that you and I talk about a lot on this podcast is Rick Steves.
Our close personal friend.
Yeah, our close personal friend. I mean, he does live in the greater Seattle area. So.
Yep, in Edmonds.
And so actually what's funny is you were saying that you found his packing list, and several years ago, I found his, and that's how I developed mine. And in fact, in my little doc here, I still have the link to the website that I referred to. So pretty much what I did is I just started by I created a document based on everything on his packing list, and then I modified it to fit me and
Yeah.
my needs. And I would say, for me, he had some categories. I also have very similar categories to his, probably because I base mine on his. And
Sure.
it's really nice because it's nice to kind of wrap your mind around one thing at a time. And I think that can be less overwhelming sometimes if you just think about like, okay, what electronics do I want on this trip? And then you think about your cell phone charger and, you know, the different things like that to make sure, and then kind of move on to other categories. And I think that can help while you're actually doing the packing as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. I think mentally, because like I said, I haven't used the categories on my packing list, but I think mentally I tend to have two big categories that I sort things into. And when I'm preparing for the trip, like in the last episode, I mentioned that I will kind of oftentimes have a pile that kind of starts like a week or so before I leave, of where I'm starting to gather some things together before they're actually packed. And for me, since I try to carry on everything when I can, it's typically my bigger bag and my kind of my personal item, which is my backpack, that if we're flying, goes with me, like, and sits underneath the seat in front of me. And those are kind of my two things. The things that I want to have quick and easy access to while I'm actually doing my traveling, and all of that stuff is kind of one category for me, and my electronics tend to fall into that category. And then the other one is the other stuff that I don't necessarily need to have quick and easy access to, which would be like all my clothes and my toiletries and, you know, some of those sorts of things that I don't necessarily have to be able to grab real easily and real quickly.
Mm-hmm. That's really funny because if I had to categorize my packing into just two, I would say clothes and not clothes. Because clothes are really what take up most of your packing space.
Yeah.
And so I would say, like, I have my clothes and then I have everything else that needs to come.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's essentially what I have too. I guess just for me, the clothes are the things that I have to bring, because otherwise I won't be able to go anywhere and people will throw me out of things and I will probably be arrested. But they're not the things that I'm bringing because I want to have them.
So things you have to bring and things you get to bring.
Yeah, probably.
And that's actually, those are interesting categories too. And we could kind of address some of those as we go along.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
The other thing I do from time to time, in addition to, kind of like we said at the end of the last episode, reflecting on your trip and editing your packing list afterwards, both in what you should have brought and what you didn't need to bring and you didn't use, is the internet is just full of lists. There are so many lists on the internet. It's just something I frequently do when it comes to packing, when it comes to researching a place to go, when it comes to all sorts of things, areas of research that I'm doing, is I'll just pull up like 10 to 20 lists in tabs on an internet browser and then just kind of scroll through them.
Yep.
Usually pretty quickly. And they're usually, they're designed to be very easy to scroll through with the bold headings and everything. And when they're not,
they always have that introduction at the beginning that I always skip because I'm like, nope, I just tell me what your list is. And
then there's the annoying ones where you have to click to a different page for every item because of the ad space they're trying to get more or whatever.
Yeah,
and
in which case,
really
usually those ones aren't as good anyway, so I just skip them.
That's true, yeah. And so, but what I'll do is I'll just have my packing list open, maybe even in a separate browser, a separate window. And then I'll have all these tabs of lists, and I'll just pretty quick scroll through lots of things and then just add things as I see them. And that can be the same with if I'm like looking into going to a city. I might do that with like top things to do in that city, or something like that. So it's just fun from time to time to see what are other travelers saying about what you should pack, and then I kind of modify accordingly.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's great, because there's so much on the internet, and I meant to say this in our last episode, and forgot because we had so many things we were talking about. But in addition to like being able to find packing lists online, there's also a ton of YouTube videos about like how to pack and packing strategies and how to pack light and how to fold things a certain way. Like there are so many things and there's so many different strategies. And so find things that are kind of in line with where your travel and packing philosophy is. You mentioned Rick Steves. One of the things and one of the reasons I think that we keep referencing him is his travel philosophy is very similar to your and my travel philosophy, traveling as a temporary local, really experiencing the culture, going off the beaten path, doing all carry on, packing light, like all of those things are part of his travel philosophy. And so that's a good place to start because we know that he kind of has those same values. And so the things that he's going to recommend to pack are more likely to be things that we're going to want to pack. And so as you're looking at different, packing lists and packing websites to try and give yourself ideas, you can start to sort of develop like, oh, these are a lot of things that are kind of in line with what I'm thinking. Or maybe it's not even what you are thinking. Maybe you're one of those people that's like, I don't pack light, but I'd like to try to start packing light. And so kind of comparing, well, here's what I would typically think about packing. Well, what are the things that these pack light experts, are suggesting, and kind of compare to see, well, I can't go that far yet. So for example, I was looking at one earlier this evening and it was saying, okay, you do a rotation, you do your rotation of 3s, right? 3 shirts, 3 pairs of pants, and then 3 pairs of underwear. And one day you're wearing them, you're wearing 1 pair, you're washing 1 pair, and 1 pair is drying. And you're just constantly cycling through all 3 of those. I'm like, well, that's an interesting strategy. I'm not ready to go that far yet. To me, I don't want to have to be washing and drying every single day the whole time that I'm traveling. That to me is a little overwhelming. But then you're packing a whole lot less.
Yeah.
So like getting those ideas and thinking about it, I was like, nope, I'm not there yet, but I might be there in a few years. We'll just have to see, and I might hey, let's try doing laundry a little bit more often, sink laundry or whatever, and see what I think. And maybe it's not as bad as I think about it in my head, So I think not just where are you now, but also where might you want to be in the future, and kind of getting ideas that way too.
Absolutely. I think the other really good reason to develop the list and start to have it ahead of time is for me, I just think of things over time. 2 weeks before my trip, something will occur to me of like, oh, I need to go buy this, or I would love to bring this on this trip. And it just kind of pops into my mind, and I want to be able to write it down on an already existing list.
Yep.
And then maybe a couple of days later, another item comes up, and so to have the time to process is really nice. And I think that a list can really help you do that. And so I'd say that that's a great reason to do it as well.
I completely agree. I think I've mentioned that on our last episode too. That's one, again, I'll just plug it one more time. One of the reasons why I love Google Keep, because I have the app on my phone, and actually because I use it for so many different things, that app is on like front and center on my home screen on my phone. I have an Android, so I can kind of control what things are on the screen there, and I don't have to have all my apps there. And so, but Google Keep is one of the ones that's on my main home screen because I access it so much, which means if I do think of something in the middle, because oftentimes a lot of the travel that I've done to, do the English camps, so like Slovenia or Croatia, I'm often leaving right after school gets out. So like I'm a high school science teacher. And so like I'm teaching full time. And actually the last time that I went to Croatia, my flight left on the last day of school. It was a half day. I had to leave like right as school was out to be able to get to the airport to leave, because we had some snow days that pushed things out. And so like, I don't have the time to sit and just really think about it, because I'm trying to finish grades and clean up the classroom and, do all of those things. And so to be able to, as it pops in my brain, be able to put it down, and then I don't have to worry about, hey, am I going to forget this? How do I make sure I get all the things that I need to? I think you're exactly right.
Awesome. So I think what we should do is talk about our packing lists.
All right.
We're talking about them, so let's talk about them.
Cheryl, would you like to share yours first?
Sure. So I'll share my categories first.
Okay.
They were highly inspired by Rick Steves' categories. I think I only added one from what he has pretty much. So mine are liquids, other toiletries, clothing, documents, electronics, and other. And now this sounds like we're playing Jeopardy. So what would you like to start
I will
with?
take liquids for 500, please, Cheryl.
So the reason I have liquids separate, as I'm sure most travelers, all travelers, most people are aware, is that since we have to pack our liquids separately, it just helps me to have this on a separate list, so that as I'm looking at my little quart-sized bag, or in my case, I actually just have a reusable one that's just like a toiletry bag that is see-through and kind of squishy and everything, and the correct size, and I really like it. I mean, it's designed specifically to be a liquids bag.
Sure.
It has a zipper, which is nice. It's nice to look at that list and make sure everything on that list is in that specific bag, and that kind of helps me. So I have my face moisturizers. I use one at daytime, one at nighttime. I have my laundry soap because that is liquid. I have hand sanitizer, toothpaste, lotion, nail polish, and sunscreen. And sometimes eye makeup remover. I'm going to edit that right now because I used to use coconut oil for that, but I don't anymore. So, all right. What questions or comments do you have, Ryan?
So the things that you mentioned, I don't know, like 7 or 8 things right there.
Yeah.
I thought it was a 3-1-1 rule for TSA that you can only have like 3 things in your little bag there.
I mean, I've always just done whatever fits in the quart-sized bag, and I thought that was their deal. I've never been stopped for it. I only have a quart-sized bag, but I stuff it full of stuff.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
And these are all, I assume, travel size things.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of them I buy travel sized. A lot of stores have a pretty good travel section these days because of those TSA regulations. And then some of them are, I just own a lot of empty plastic bottles and fill them with what I want.
Sure.
Other thoughts, questions, comments? Yeah.
I mean, most of those are things that are not really in my world, so I don't know that I have a lot of useful questions for you.
Sure. I would say I'll just talk about a couple of them. Hand sanitizer is just really great to have. You don't know what kind of restrooms you're going to be using all the time, and so I really like to travel with some hand sanitizer. Nail polish might sound a little bit frivolous.
I'm nodding over here. You can't see it because this is audio only.
On a long trip, like, it's kind of nice just to spend some downtime at some point repainting my nails. Maybe they've chipped by that point. It's just kind of a fun little self-care thing for me to do. And it actually, I mean, nail polish doesn't actually take up a lot of space. So, or if my nail chips and then it just bums me out, it's easy to... I guess if we were going more useful, you can use clear nail polish to like mend things. So
there you go.
That's
practical.
Obviously my thought first and foremost would be that. Yeah, and then my other toiletries is a little bit of a longer list. Okay, before we continue to the next category, I'm just going to share this document with you so that you can follow along.
Yep.
It has little pink check boxes because one time my sister and I were traveling together. Here's actually a packing light tip is she had blue check boxes and I had pink ones because we're like, a lot of these things other than clothing we could share. And so we didn't both need to bring it. Just one of us could bring whatever the item was. And so we just decided who was going to bring what. And so that was really helpful. So my next category is other toiletries. It's kind of long, so I'll go quick and then we can talk
that is actually, now that I'm visually looking at it, it is the longest of all of your categories.
Yeah, it is. And we're going to get a little personal here. So there we go.
Okay.
Solid shampoo, solid conditioner, razor, face bar soap, hair straightener, bobby pins, mascara, eyeliner, Kleenex, Excedrin, Pamprin, deodorant, toothbrush, ointment Band-Aids, nail file and clippers, tweezers, floss, dry shampoo, feminine products, face powder, Dayquil, NyQuil, and lipstick.
That is an extensive list. So I do have a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about this whole solid shampoo, solid conditioner, and then dry shampoo?
Yes, I can. Oh man, I'm excited to share about this. So, I'm definitely going to plug a brand here because I know of very few brands doing this.
Okay.
So Lush is a fun soap store that's in a lot of shopping malls. I actually first went to one in London, and that was really fun, and then learned that they were worldwide. And they have a line of bar shampoo and conditioner.
Okay.
And so it looks like a bar of soap, but it acts like shampoo. And so you can buy just this little round bar, and they have all these different ones. So just like you would buy normal shampoo, and it could be for different hair types and different ingredients and blah, blah, blah. They have all these different ones to choose from. And then you can get a little tin to carry it in.
Okay.
And you get your hair wet, you rub it on your scalp, and it suds up just like regular shampoo and works like regular shampoo, but takes up significantly less space. They say it's like over 100 washes for one bar.
Oh, wow.
You know, because if you think about how like long a bar of soap lasts you and how much of yourself you're washing, it goes a long time. And then because of the whole liquids thing, it doesn't contribute to that.
Mhm.
And you could just bring it on your whole trip. And like I have a lot of hair, it's really thick. And so if I use a lot of shampoo when I use shampoo, and same with conditioner. And so it saves a lot of space for me to do this. It's one less liquid that could leak. I know I like their products too, so that's nice. The conditioner, I would say, is better for short hair than long hair. The longer my hair gets, the little harder it is to use it because you kind of have to like move it through your hair in this way that's a little trickier sometimes. But it still can be worth it to bring it at least as a backup. Maybe the hotel you're staying in has conditioner, but it's kind of nice to have some around.
Yeah.
And then dry shampoo, most women probably already know about, but it's like a spray bottle or sometimes just a powder.
How is a spray bottle dry?
It's an aerosol thing that releases like a powder substance.
Okay.
It's science, Ryan. So
I'm struggling right now.
So dry shampoo pretty much soaks up a lot of the oils in your hair, so you can get by without as many washes on your hair, which can be really nice when you have a lot of hair, both in time-wise and not overwashing your hair. And so it's a nice thing to bring while traveling when you're like, well, I don't really want to wash my hair today, or I don't really like the shower here, or whatever it is, or maybe you just wash your body. So that's a really nice thing to go another day without.
Okay.
I mentioned several drugs that I like to bring. I think I've talked about that in previous episodes, but if you get a headache, you get cramps, things like that, it's really nice to have some painkiller that you know that you already like, and it takes up hardly any space, especially if you remove it from the bottles and have it just in a little pill box or something. And then the NyQuil and Dayquil, I love to take on airplanes. It just it's a decongestant, so it opens up everything, and so it opens up your ears, and it makes it easier for you to pop your ears. And then also on an airplane, sometimes on a long flight, taking some NyQuil is just kind of hits the spot. So helps you pass out when you want to pass out a little bit.
Sure.
So
another question for you.
Yeah.
Hair straightener. That is not a small device. Do you have a travel hair straightener, or is this one of your like special things, like your?
So I have a
splurges?
travel hair straightener. It is real small. Actually, these days I don't bring it much because I mainly can just air dry my hair and be happy with it. But if it is kind of a little bit of a splurge, like I do want to style my hair a little bit, it does not take up much room. It's like the actual like hot part of it is like a 1/2 inch wide, and then the item itself is probably like 6 inches tall.
Oh, that's not bad.
So it's they're pretty small. So I would say the travel, and like Conair makes them, so they're like $15-20, something like that. And it comes in a little pouch that is heat resistant, so you can put it back in there.
Nice.
It's still hot actually too. So
and does it have like? Sorry,
I kind of go between bringing it and not bringing it.
Yeah.
So.
Does it have is it compatible for different voltages? Does it have different plug adapters with it for traveling?
Nope, not at all. It just would go in a regular outlet. And so, I mean, as far as, I see what you're saying. Sorry.
I'm talking about for traveling to another country where they have different plugs, and then also they run at a different voltage.
So it doesn't have the different plug, but it does have the compatible voltage.
Okay.
Can you explain that to our listeners, though? Because I learned about that not too long ago and was like, holy moly, I have to
Wait,
check
you didn't
like the
know
side.
about this?
I mean, I only learned about it like a few years ago. I mean, okay, I knew that you had to like get the different outlet because I already knew about the outlets and everything.
Yeah.
But like I didn't understand the whole voltage aspect of it, that like not every electronic you own could just be plugged into another outlet adapter.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's two different things when you're traveling. And actually, this is when we get there, these will be on this is on my travel list of something to bring, my packing list. But so there's the actual plug adapter. So that's like most of our plugs at the end of the cable is either 2 prongs or 3 prongs, and it goes into the wall. Well, that is not standard around the world. There are some other countries that use the same plugs that we do, but Europe is not. None of the European countries do. They have their own. The standard European one is actually where we would have 2 flat prongs. They have 2 circular, I don't know, pegs, I guess, that would plug into things. And like England has its own that's even bigger, that has like 3 big flat things. And so there's a bunch of different types of just ways to even plug things into the wall. Now, those are pretty easy and cheap to get. You can get those adapters for not very much at all, like, I don't know, $5, $10, something like that, because they just plug into what you already have, and it just lets you put it into the wall. That part's the easy part. The tricky part is the actual voltage. So the amount of, and this is not completely accurate, but for our purposes, we can think of it as the amount of electricity running through your cable or through your wall or through the outlet. And in the United States, we have 110 volts that our devices run on. A large portion of the rest of the world, and definitely Europe is part of that, runs on 220 volts. That, in case you weren't paying attention, is twice the voltage of what we have here. And so if you just plug one of our devices into that, it is not, for the most part, most of our devices are not set and ready to use that voltage, that higher voltage. Now, the exception of that is most of our modern electronics. So your cell phone charger, your laptop charger, all of those things. If you've ever noticed that it's not just a plug into the wall, but like your cell phone, it has like that little tiny kind of brick that goes with the plug, or your laptop charger will have that little black brick that's in between the laptop on the wall. That actually will do a voltage conversion. So those things, and it'll actually be written on it, and you can actually see, it'll tell you, it's the really, really tiny stuff that you almost never read. It tells you the number of amps and the number of volts and all that stuff. So if you're ever not sure, you can always look there. And as long as it says 110 to 220, you're good no matter what country you go to. And like I said, most of our electronics that we would plug in and charge now fall into that, but not all of your bathroom electronics, I guess, for lack of a better word, are. So hair dryers typically are not, I guess like I've got some clippers to like do my hair or things like that. Those are not in and of themselves. Hair straighteners, I don't believe in and of themselves typically are, but if you get a travel hair dryer or a travel hair straightener like you have, those things, because they're designed for travel, will have that voltage conversion built into it. So all you need is the actual plug adapter.
And you can actually read on the product itself if it is or not. Like it says in the super fine print that's usually like the same color as the item. And so that's nice because I've had to check mine in the past. And awesome. I'm so glad you explained that, though, because I think you explained that far better than I did. So that's awesome.
Well, I mean, just to make myself old, I mean, I've been traveling internationally long enough where most things didn't have that voltage converter. And so you could purchase, and I actually do have, and you can still buy them. I actually have a voltage converter as well. They're a lot bigger. That's not just the plug, but you can actually have it convert the voltage so you can use it on things that aren't set to do the higher voltage.
Yeah, I've traveled with those before, and then I think at one point I actually had one that did both. So it did both the converting and the adapter plug as one item, and those are really nice too.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Clothing. Everybody wants to know what clothes I bring.
I definitely do.
Boots, sandals, or flats, jacket, jeans, shirts, socks, underwear, bras, a comfy t-shirt, swimsuit, dress, black leggings, accessories, romper, sports bra, laundry bag, and bike shorts.
Okay, so a couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
First of all, you have a list of types of clothes, but you don't have numbers on those.
I don't have numbers. I determine my numbers based on the length of the trip, but I won't go over 1 week's worth.
So that's no matter how long the trip is, you never bring more than a week's worth of clothes.
Yeah, because I'll just do laundry at that point. If I'm going to be gone for longer than a week. I mean, if it was 8 days, I don't know, then I might just recycle a shirt in there or whatever.
Sure.
So I don't have a number of shirts because sometimes I'm going to wear dresses or different things like that. And then I can bring fewer shirts. Or, I'll try to bring articles of clothing that kind of work in a variety of ways as well. Maybe it's like a sweater that buttons up so I could wear it over something or on its own, things like that. If you'll notice, I don't have pajamas on there because when I travel, I'll typically sleep in the black leggings and the comfy t-shirt. And then I can also use the leggings just to wear out and about sometimes so they can kind of double up in that way. I love to bring a laundry bag or something similar to that to put the dirty clothes in so that can look different based on how I'm doing my packing and everything.
Sure.
I'm really not going to bring more than 2 pairs of shoes or just 1 pair of shoes, depending on the trip. And so if I'm going somewhere where I need sandals, then I'll bring good walking sandals. So I have Chacos that look nice. They're like a leather, or they might just be leather, and they're really good as walking shoes. And I've walked for miles and miles on them, and they're sandals. I'm not going to also bring like flats if I'm going to bring those because they're so similar.
Yeah.
So then maybe I'll bring boots or something that's going to be a little
Give you some variety. Something that's
give me
nicer.
that variety. Or like I've done so many trips where I just wear a pair of flats the whole time, or I just wear like tennis shoes the whole time if it's casual, or things like that. I'm trying to think of anything else.
So
here.
You listed accessories. That
Jewelry.
is incredibly vague.
Yeah, just some jewelry. And again, I'll usually just bring like 1 or 2 necklaces to kind of like jazz up an outfit. Or maybe I won't, and then maybe that will be a souvenir I get. Maybe if I'm on a trip and it's cold, I won't bring a scarf because it'd be fun to get a scarf at the location I'm going to.
Yeah.
So it can kind of be fun to underpack a little bit to have the opportunity as well to, decide something from the place I'm going to that would be fun.
Yeah.
Bike shorts, ladies, underdresses, if you're going to be walking a lot, they're fantastic. So that's good. I'm trying to think of anything else. Yeah. Moving on.
Next one.
Documents. All the fun stuff. Here we go. Train tickets, a printout of all reservations, passport, ID, credit card and debit card, American cash, euros, or whatever
the local
form of currency you need, photocopies of passports, money belt, admission tickets, and travel insurance. So I'm someone who loves things digitally, but I also believe in having some paper copies of things. I think it's just smart. Again, like just multiple copies, or I don't know, what if my cell phone got stolen and then I just had the paper copies of things. What's not on here that I'll sometimes bring is a map. If I want a map, like a physical map of the area. Something that my sister and I did when we were in Rome is we had a physical map of Rome. And then at nighttime when we had Wi-Fi, we would look up the Google Maps directions to walk or take the metro to different places, and then she would just draw it on the map, so she could just refer to it. So that was kind of a fun way to mash up with that. I think Rick Steves and other travel people say even if you're not in the States, just having American cash on you can be valuable at times.
I always travel with U.S. dollars.
Yeah, I think that just is smart. And then if I'm going to another country, these days I do a lot with my credit card. I mainly do credit card. I think later in the series, we're going to talk a little bit more about money and travel. but I just have one that doesn't have the fee of an international use, and so many places use them, accept them these
Yep.
days. And so, but I always want to have cash on me too, and I would like to have cash on me before I even take the trip. I think is just the best way to go.
And when you say cash, you mean the local currency.
The local currency. I've told the story before where I did a long layover in Paris and went into the city for the day on my way to Spain. On that trip, I had some euros already, but not a lot. And then when the train back to the airport was delayed, and at that point I realized I could jump in a taxi, but if they only take cash, I didn't think I actually had enough euros to get to the airport. And that was like the very beginning of my trip, and I was like, oh, I feel like I should just kind of start off. So something I'll do is like if I take a trip and have some extra money, I'll just keep it, for the next trip, or something like that. But it can also just work to find an ATM when you're in country and get some cash.
Yeah.
That way as
And
well.
that's typically what I do, only because you'll get a better exchange rate than if you try and get money here in the States before you go. Typically, there's more fees attached to it when you do that here. But you're right. Like if you want to make sure that you have it when you get there, the only way to do that is to already have it.
Yeah. So it's saving it for the last trip. Actually, something my family has even done is just like passed around euros sometimes. If you're like, hey, I just got back from a trip and do you want this because you're about to head out somewhere, and so that can be cool. I like to buy travel insurance for if I'm spending a lot of money on a plane ticket, then it's really nice to buy that travel insurance. And I would rather buy it on its own as opposed to just covering the plane ticket, because you can do that now. Airlines tell you, like, do you want to insure this trip? And that would insure that plane ticket. But if you do the travel insurance, I think you could also cover other expenses, your hotel, the museum. I don't know exactly. I haven't read all the fine print or anything, but it's nice to have it.
Where do you go through for your travel insurance?
I honestly don't even remember. I just kind of Googled it, and yeah. Do you have a specific one that you like?
I've never actually used travel insurance.
Really?
No.
So,
but again, part of it's because most of the trips that I've done, I haven't done independently. I'm going with a group. And so there's often travel insurance included through the group, so that I've not actually had to do that. That's actually something that me and a couple of friends, we are in the process of planning a trip to Ireland for the summer. And we've talked a little bit about the whole travel insurance thing. We haven't landed on a consensus yet. That's partly why I was asking, like, hey, do you have something that you like to go through?
So, I mean, it doesn't cost much. I would say I'm really bad at remembering exact amounts of money, but I feel like I was somewhere between like $40 and $60. Like it's not a lot if you compare it to the like $1,000 plane ticket you got. Okay, so actually this is funny. Just today I purchased wedding insurance. Because I'm planning my wedding. And there's a couple reasons to have it. One being like if you have a guest and something gets out of control, or you damage the property at your venue, or just anything that goes down that is going to cost money, that your wedding insurance will cover that. And then the other piece is the cancellation insurance.
Sure.
And it was funny because I was texting with my fiance and he's like, well, we don't need the cancellation insurance. And I was like, yeah, we don't need it because like of the reason that we're not going to break up. But like, what if some, like, I don't know, you have a family member die? What if there's some sort of situation where we realize, like, we're still getting married, not on this particular day, then we're going to be out all that money, because of the cancellation part of it too. And so I think it's kind of the same with a trip where you're like, well, no, I'm definitely going on this trip. But actually someone that we both knew, so my brother-in-law, your best friend, Ben, was married to my sister. He was diagnosed with cancer, and they had to cancel their trip to Europe.
Right.
And it was like, well, they get travel insurance, because it's like you may not on your own volition choose to cancel a trip, but also like if you're usually booking it so far out in advance that it's like, I don't know. That's really nice. And then also, apparently, I think the travel insurance company, you can even call them while you're on the trip. So I think if something goes down, they can be a good support system. So that's good as well. So I've never had to use it, but it's kind of the same as any form of insurance where, like, hopefully you won't need to use it, but it's there. So,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah. That was quite the little spiel on that.
Seems to be what we're doing this episode.
Yep. Electronics. This is going to be short. Phone charger, camera battery charger, plug adapters, headphones, Fitbit charger, Kindle charger, and portable phone charger.
That's a lot of chargers.
Yep. I mean, so one thing is like I'll wear a Fitbit, but the charge lasts for 5 days, so I still should bring the charger on my trip. The portable phone charger, I think, is also like known as like a portable battery or different things like that.
Oh,
What do you call it?
Power brick.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that's really nice to just have like a charger on the go when you can't plug in.
Yep.
Yeah. They don't take up very much space between all those things, but it's good to have.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I
use
don't know,
all
your
of those.
camera, though, depending on the size of the camera, that might take up some
My
space.
camera takes up a lot of space because
Yeah.
most of the time I travel with a DSLR, and
Right.
that would be my splurge choice right there.
Yeah, and how many lenses do you typically travel with?
1 to 2.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Although the last time I went to Spain, I got my camera out 1 day on the whole trip. And other than that, I used my phone just because of the types of activities I was doing. I was
Yep.
like, I don't really want a lot on me. So it does make me
Mhm.
seriously question, like, how often I want to bring the camera. Like, if it's a
Yeah.
photography trip, then yeah. But
Yeah, no, my phone is my camera.
it works pretty well.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have a fancy one to bring, but
Yeah. It's a commitment, that's for sure. And I realized,
Mhm.
like, oh, that wasn't that type of trip, And so,
yeah.
yeah. And then my other is glasses, sunglasses, collapsible water bottle, fold-up tote bags, shout wipes, host gifts, universal drain stopper, clothesline, snacks, and a pen.
Nice.
Any thoughts on those?
I mean, those are a lot, just practical things, I think. How many snacks do you typically bring, and what do you typically bring?
I'm a big fan of the bars, like a protein bar of some form or another.
Mm-hmm.
I like those a lot. I just have them in my life, like ready to grab at any moment. That's increased now that I have a hangry fiance and he has a hangry son. So I have hangry boys in my life who I just need to be able to quickly hand a protein bar to. And I get shaky when I get hungry, so that's its own thing. So, I mean, everybody has their brand of choice with those. For me, I look at the grams of protein to make sure that it's one that I want to bring with me. So I just like to have bars around. Maybe I'll put a couple in my suitcase and a couple in my purse or something like that. I have also made, I call them energy balls because it is a little ball.
Yeah.
I've actually made them at your house.
You have. They taste real good.
Yeah, they're fun. I remember the first time I gave you one and you were like, and these are good for me?
Yeah. How packable and travelable are those, though? Because I feel like they're fairly, like, sticky and squishy.
Typically, when I've made them, they've ended up pretty hard.
Oh,
They're
okay.
pretty dense. And I'll put them just in a Ziploc. And actually, when I went to Europe with my sister, I brought a bunch of those. And then I also brought a bunch of chocolate-covered espresso beans because it was,
boy.
like, pretty fun to pop a couple of those in the morning as, like, my little morning coffee, So
Yep.
those are fun to bring. Or also bring nuts or something like that can be nice.
Yeah,
I know you travel with snacks.
I do.
What snacks do you travel with?
Very similar ones to what you say. So yeah, I'm a fan of the sort of like granola bar type thing. And yeah, for me, it's protein is a big thing. Usually some combination of chocolate and peanut butter because that is the world's best flavor combination. And then also if you've got peanuts in it of some kind, then there's probably some protein in there too. I've tried some different things. I've done like trail mixes and I enjoy those, but those are a little bit trickier.
Yeah.
Just because to bring enough, it's got to be like a bigger like bag, and it's a little bit heavier and denser. And whereas the nice thing about the like granola bars is you can even, if you bring a whole bunch, like 10 or 12 or however many, then you can have them. And like, if you're going to go out for a day trip, you can just take one or two like in your day pack and not take all of them. Whereas like if it was the trail mix, I'd pretty much be taking all of it, or I'd have to like parse it out into smaller Ziploc bags. It just takes a whole lot more time. So,
my two favorite brands of bars I'm getting these days, I'll go ahead and plug. One of them are the Think Thin bars.
Okay.
The flavors are really good. They have a higher amount of protein in them than a lot of them. I think it's like 20 grams typically.
Oh, wow.
Is what they have, which is awesome.
That is
and
high.
they have a peanut butter flavor that's good. They also have a chocolate covered peanut butter. And then the lemon one is really good
Lemon.
too. Yeah, they're not quite as dense as some of those type of protein bars, so that's nice. The other one I love that feels like you're just eating a little treat. It has a couple more grams of sugar than the other one, but also is really high in protein. Are the Power Crunch bars, and it is designed a little bit more like a wafer cookie. If you remember those like old school like packs of wafer cookies. And they have about 13 to 14 grams of protein in those. 5 grams of sugar, and a lot of them have 0 to 1 grams of sugar. So they do have more sugar in them. But the flavors, the vanilla is really good. The chocolate's good. There's a mint chocolate. There's a peanut butter. There's a caramel. Like, they're all really yummy, and it feels more like eating a fun cookie. And so that can be a fun, like, snack guy to have as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm not nearly that fancy. I get here, I'll even walk over. Oops, sorry, that's the chair. I'm going to awkwardly walk over, and so my voice is going to get quiet. I'm going to go over to the kitchen now, and I'm going to grab my big box from Costco, because Costco is amazing. Oof. And I have the Nature Valley Protein Chewy Bars, peanut butter,
those are
dark
yummy.
Chocolate. And so those
How
are
many grams of protein?
10 grams of protein.
Okay.
Which is not as impressive as the ones you have, but I've not ever seen those other ones that you were talking about that have like 20 grams. For a standard kind of granola bar, this is relatively high. The sugar is still probably relatively high too. I guess it's 7 grams of sugar. But at the same time, I don't feel like sugar is evil. So, and if it's got, decent amount of protein, the sugar, especially if like on this last trip where I was like feeling motion sick and, not feeling very good, actually having the sugar in it can be helpful because that gets into your system a lot faster. So,
you know what? That reminded me of something that I don't actually have on my packing list that I bring these days.
Oh no.
Are ginger chews. Do you know those?
I do. And did you know that the ginger chews don't actually have enough ginger to actually help you with motion sickness? Sorry.
That's sad. Aww.
But it gives you something to do. So it can definitely, like, as you're chewing on them, they can distract you. And it's not like they don't do anything, but as far as an effective dose of ginger to really stave off motion sickness, the chews usually don't have enough. Now, there may be a few brands that do, and you'd have to do a little bit more research. But yes, I did quite a bit of research around that stuff before I went to the Galapagos. So,
and you got all kinds of motion sick on that trip.
I did, because I brought stuff and it was in my checked bag.
Oh, man.
Yep. Oh, well.
One final thought from me is that my sister, we were talking before about suitcases.
Yeah.
My sister and her husband have had these suitcases for 10 years. and they love them and they talk about them all the time. I have yet to look into purchasing them. The brand is Zuca, Zuca.
Okay.
And I think they were maybe towards the start of the packing cubes craze.
Okay.
And the whole thing is like built to have like layers of packing cubes in it. And
Oh,
it comes with
interesting.
the packing cubes. And one of them is a liquids one. And then it has a metal frame so you can sit on it. So you can use it as a chair.
Oh, I see. I'm looking at their website right now. Interesting.
They
Interesting.
fit in the overhead bin. They're bright colors too. So like they have a red one and a blue one so that they'll easily identify them. She said the downside is that they don't have the wheels that do like the 360-degree spin.
Yeah, they don't have the spinner wheels.
But that would also make sense that if you can sit on them, you may not want that. You know, like if you're going to use it as a chair.
Huh. I'm going to have to look more at this. I don't know how I feel about them right now.
Yeah, they look weird. I don't like the look of them very much.
Well, and I'm not sure how I would organize in them. I'll have to check it out. Interesting.
Yeah. So they're a big fan of that brand. And I mean, they've lasted 10 years and they're still in really good condition. So that's exciting. But the idea of being able to use your suitcase as a chair is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. Yeah, for sure.
All right, Ryan, tell me about your packing list.
Well, I'm going to go a little bit faster through my packing list, I think, because a lot of the things that I would have said, we've already talked about. So, and I
Great.
don't have it categorized because as we discussed, I didn't realize I could do the little sub thing. So I might start doing that. And I'm literally, these are not in any particular order because this is going to be the order in which they were checked off during the
Got
last trip that I did. So one thing is, so I've got Kleenex. I have my Surface, which is my laptop, and then my Surface charger, phone charger, my Movies USB drive, laser pointer, underwear, socks, swim trunks, toiletries, towel, shirts, pants, rain pants, sunglasses, power bank, plug adapter, book, because I can never decide if I'm going to bring one or not. Flight manifest, that's if I'm traveling with a group. Snow hat, base layers, cash, wetsuit bag, motion sick pills, sunscreen, sandals, headphones, passport, jacket, granola bars, and water bottle.
Awesome. It's easier being a dude.
Well, I also like you broke out your toiletries, and because I have a toiletries like bag, I got the Amazon Basics like toiletries bag, and
Yeah.
like certain things go in certain places in it. And so like, for
cool.
example, like my fingernail clippers, like they just go in it. I just leave my soap in it at all times because I don't need it somewhere
Nice.
else. So like, and my razor, my electric razor goes in one side, my toothbrush goes in the other side. There's stuff that just is always in it. So I pretty much just put the big things in, and I don't usually have to remind myself to bring those.
Nice.
The towel is a travel towel.
Okay, let's hear about it.
So it's a microfiber cloth, and so it's super, super thin. And I don't always travel with it, but if I'm going somewhere where I know I'm going to be swimming or in the water at all, I definitely will bring it. Or if I know that I'm traveling somewhere that isn't going to be providing towels, which, for example, when I go and do English camp, I need to bring my own towels for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, it's very thin. I opted for the largest size of the ones that I could get just because I'm not like a giant tall, but I'm definitely not short. And
Yeah.
I've had the like little tiny towel that I try and dry myself off with, and it just doesn't work very well. So I opted for the bigger one, and you can take it to the beach and like use it as a beach towel if you want. It's not thick and it's not fuzzy. So it's not like that warm, comfortable type towel, but because it's microfiber, it's very, very absorbent and it will dry quickly. It's also something that's great if you're doing sink laundry, which we'll have another episode that we'll talk about that a little bit later. But if you are trying to get your clothes to dry a little bit faster, you can roll them up in the towel after you've kind of wrung the water out. And because it's microfiber, it's going to kind of wick a lot of that water out of your clothes. So you can roll it up to kind of get a little bit more of that water out and then dry your clothes and then dry your towel, and the towel will dry out relatively quickly.
I love it. Yeah, I have a travel towel that I haven't brought on airplane trips, but I've brought on other sorts of trips.
Yeah.
And love it. And I also have one that's a washcloth that
Mhm.
has a snap on the end of it, and the snap attaches to the inside of a teeny tiny mesh bag,
Yeah.
and you can like ball it up in the mesh bag, and that's really nice to just
Yeah.
have this little carrying
Yeah.
thing for it. I love your thought of just keeping your toiletries in their bag and just kind of having that. I actually recently for non-flying trips developed just a travel toiletries bag just for I've done a
Mhm.
lot of little weekend trips here and there where
Yeah.
I'm just jumping in the car and heading somewhere, and that's pretty last minute on the packing, usually like the day of or the night before, just going to be gone for 2 nights. And I just have like one of everything in there and they stay in there. So like
Mhm.
even my makeup, just everything that's toiletries related.
Yeah.
So that really all I'm bringing is clothes and my phone charger.
Mhm.
And I think that's it for those trips. And so that's been really nice. And actually I like the idea of developing one that's for flying as well.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah. It's,
Um,
again, one of those things for me, routine is something that helps me not forget things. So using the same toiletries bag, putting things in the same place in it, right? Like everything has a space. That way I know, oh, this is empty. I'm still missing something.
That's cool. And you know what? I feel like that would help a lot of people maybe feel like they're at home a little bit
Mhm.
while they're on the road, traveling to different places to kind of have, and being out of a suitcase. Most people aren't used to that. And so to have something that's kind of like, I always bring this toiletries thing,
Mhm.
and this is the home for everything, might
Yeah.
kind of like provide some familiarity.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people love those hanging toiletries
Yep.
bags that like
mine has a
roll
little,
open.
yeah, mine has a little hook inside it that you can hang.
Awesome. Man, I need to look into one of those because I know some people that have them, and it's nice that they don't really take up very much space. And so
Yeah.
you
I mean,
hang
it
them
is a
as
little
well.
bit on the bigger side, like overall, but since
Mhm.
it's everything, right?
Yeah.
Like with the, like my liquids will fit in it. Like when I'm traveling, I'll take, like if I'm flying, I will take my liquids out of it just so that I don't have to deal with that. But if I'm checking a bag, my liquids just go in it with everything else and it doesn't take up
Nice.
any more space.
That's cool. That's
So.
awesome. Yeah, with my liquids bag, I want to keep it really accessible. And so I pack it like right on the top of the suitcase or on the side pocket or something where like it's really easy to pull out. So I'd say that's
Mhm.
definitely something I like to do. Tell me about your laser pointer.
So keep in mind, and like, so this is from a bunch of different trips that I've done. So things like my snow hat and rain pants, I don't bring those on every trip, right? The
Mhm.
laser pointer, I don't know if I'm going to bring it on my trip to Ireland, but I'm going back to Slovenia again this summer, and I definitely will bring it there. So I love astronomy, and the laser pointer is not like your standard red laser pointer, although I have that too. It's actually a green laser pointer. And what you can do is you can actually, the beam is visible at night and it looks really cool, and you can actually use it to point to stars. So anytime I'm somewhere, and typically if I know that students are going to be around, so I'm going to be like trying to show them, oh, look here, there's the Big Dipper, follow the arc to Arcturus, or take the 2 pointer stars and the edge of the bowl and go out of the bowl to find Polaris, and there's the Little Dipper, whatever it is. It's way easier to get people to understand that and to see that with my laser pointer. And there've been enough times and enough of the trips that I go on that are with students, and I mean, if there's stars, I'm looking at them. And so it's super tiny. It's like a pen laser, the size. Cool. So it's not like this industrial strength laser or anything like that. And so it's like a pen laser. And so it doesn't take up a lot of space, but it's helpful for me to remember to bring it because I don't always remember to bring it. And actually, I need to add, see, this is good, that I also need to bring either the charger for the rechargeable batteries or an extra battery because it actually died on this last trip. Battery charger. Okay, look at that. Bingo.
Love it. Tell me about your movies USB.
Yeah, so I'm typically on really long flights. Usually I'll fly as much as I can, Seattle to Europe, instead of like stopping somewhere in the middle, like Chicago or Dallas or whatever, because that just makes the travel time so much longer. And we're far enough north in the Seattle area that we can fly up and over the poles, and it actually makes it a little bit shorter. But that usually means the flights I'm on are usually, I don't know, like between 8 and 10 hours long. That's a long time to be sitting. And most planes at this point have in-flight entertainment systems that you can watch their movies and TVs and stuff, TV shows. And I would love to say that, oh yeah, I don't need to bring a laptop or my phone with movies in it, for myself, because I can just watch theirs. I did that once, and granted, this was a number of years ago, but I was like, oh, they all have this stuff. And I was on a flight and it did not have any of it. And I didn't have anything to keep myself occupied, because I was like, oh no, I'll just watch the stuff that's on the plane. And so since I had that experience, I'm like, nope, I'm bringing it with me. And so my Surface is not very big. It gives me internet access. I can, type things if I need to. Again, especially when I'm doing like English camps and things, it's a really useful resource for me. And unlike, I think you don't mind being on your phone. If I have a choice between my phone and my computer, I'm going to pick my computer almost every time. It's bigger. I like to be able to type on a real keyboard, like all of those things. I just prefer it. And like I said, it's not very big or very heavy, so it doesn't take up a ton of space. Maybe it's my splurge. But one of the things that I've done is I have taken like old DVDs and things that I've had, and I've ripped them, which is, it's a gray area as to whether or not it's legal, but I've actually legally purchased these movies. So it's not like I'm, stealing them. So I basically made a copy of them, a digital copy. And then instead of keeping them on my laptop hard drive, I put them onto a USB drive so I can kind of bring it around. I can take it to other computers if I need to. But like I can just plug it into my laptop and then I'm good. And I've got, I don't know, probably like 20 or 30 movies on there. And they're of course my movies. So I like them. I enjoy them. And then I've got all my movies there. Whereas, the more and more flights are having Wi-Fi, but sometimes you have to pay for it. Sometimes it's not fast enough to like stream stuff. So it's just a really easy way that I don't have to depend on having access to that stuff if I need to, keep myself occupied or entertained. Or sometimes I'll even do it. Like I do have trouble sleeping on flights, but there are certain things that if I put it on, it can kind of be that white noise. And if I'm familiar enough with it, because I've seen it so many times, sometimes that actually helps me fall asleep. So sometimes I'll do something like that too.
I love that. I would highly recommend as well having podcasts or audiobooks already downloaded on phones. I think that's a really good one.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of other pieces
and I actually,
of that.
on this last flight, like coming back from the Galapagos, I saw something for the first time that was in the back of the seat. There was no screen, but there was a little plastic piece that you could pull up. It was spring loaded and it was positioned so you could stick your phone in it, and then your phone would basically be at eye level. So it was designed for, no, we're not going to provide the entertainment for you, but we know that you all have phones and you probably have downloaded Netflix shows or whatever. And so you could actually stick it sideways. So it was, long ways, like you would watch something and then it would be in front of you so you wouldn't have to hold it. I was like, that's pretty impressive.
I love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I have an iPhone. So my headphones now fit in the little lightning spot because it doesn't have the headphone jack.
Right.
So I have to remember on trips to bring headphones that have the traditional headphone jack.
Or an adapter dongle.
In order to plug in to the headphone jack in the little armrest.
Yeah.
And the last several flights I've gone on have been domestic, so most of them have not had screens, but a couple of them had the screens, but I just had my headphones that fit into my iPhone, and and on those flights, they were selling headphones. And I was
Sure.
like, well, I'm just going to listen to podcasts. And it was fine because it was a 2-hour flight, so who cares?
Oh, yeah.
But that was something where it's like, oh, yeah, I need to remember like the traditional headphones or the adapter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I would recommend that as well. Do you have any sort of holder for your passport or credit cards with
I
the
do.
thing?
I do. So I have I think they call it a neck wallet, which is kind of like a money belt, except you typically wear it around your neck. So in my list, I have passport, and my passport just lives in it. That is where my passport is at all times. So it's not something like I have to remember to bring that separately, because that's where my passport already is. And so when I go to grab my passport, it's in that neck wallet. I've gone back and forth. I did at one point buy a money belt, and because I just moved, it's in a box somewhere, and I don't know where right now, but it is in a box. And so I would like to try the money belt versus the neck wallet. It's just more that the neck is the one that I'm more comfortable with.
Yeah.
But also, when I was first introduced to it, I was in high school, and it wasn't communicated clearly exactly a good way to use it. And I don't remember if we've talked about this on the podcast or not. I think we have, but like,
We did.
yeah. So like the neck
Yeah.
wallet versus or the money belt, it's not something to use where like you pull it out all the time to pay for something, right? You should still.
Yeah, that kind of defeats the purpose.
It does. It
if
really
it's supposed
does.
to be hidden.
Yeah. And so it's like, yes, you keep it on your person, but you also have, whether it's a wallet or just some cash in your pocket or whatever. And so it helps have cash in multiple places. And then if you get robbed, all of your money isn't actually taken. And that, you know, or if you just get pickpocketed, even like it's just coming out of your pocket. Yeah. Okay. Maybe you lost $30 or $50 or whatever, but you still have the bulk of your money in your money belt or your neck wallet or whatever. So,
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Well, we talked a lot about packing.
yes, we did.
So fun.
Kind of a big deal.
Yep, we're big fans. So, yeah.
But I think that's gonna do it for our talking about our packing lists, don't you think, Cheryl?
I think so.
Yeah. But if there's other questions that people have or suggestions that they have, cool ideas that they want to share, of course you always can. We would love to hear from you. But we have one more thing to do before we wrap up this episode, and that is our Wish You Were Here segment. So in this segment, Cheryl and I are each going to share a travel attraction, something from our various travels, places we've been, things we've done that we think is really cool, kind of like one of those old postcards that had a picture of something and said, "Wish you were here." So Cheryl, what's your Wish You Were Here this week?
So mine is in Boston, and it is called the Warren Tavern.
Okay.
It's actually in Charleston, which is like right next to Boston. Like it's still kind of called Boston, but it's across the river, so it's Charlestown. It is one of the most historic taverns in America and the oldest tavern in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And one time George Washington ate there.
Oh, wow. That is old then.
Yeah, so it's from 1780. So
Wow.
for the States, that's really old.
Yeah.
And I think we've kind of talked about before, like you were talking about seeing, I believe you were talking about seeing like Einstein's home and being a little unimpressed or something like that. And there's kind of the idea that we've talked about, like, does it matter if a famous person once was in the same space or whatever? And I kind of go back and forth because I think to me what's more impressive is just how old something is that individual could have been there. You know what I mean? Than like that actual individual. But there is something kind of fun about getting a beer and being like, George Washington has been in this space. And maybe because it's in the States too. And like, we're not used to that
Yeah.
in the States of like something being historic enough for anything, you know? And so, it's just a good restaurant, to be honest. I got fish and chips there and they were great. And I was, with some friends and they got yummy things too. And it's just a cute little tavern, but it is pretty fun to be like, I was in the space that where George Washington was in, and Paul Revere apparently as well. So, yeah, Paul. Oh, actually, on their website it says that Paul Revere considered it one of his favorite watering holes. And
okay.
So there you go. So check it out when you're in Boston.
Next time I'm there.
How about you, Ryan?
So for me, my Wish You Were Here is from my trip to Iceland. So one of the things in Iceland is they have their own kind of yogurt. It's called skyr, S-K-Y-R. You can actually buy Icelandic yogurt in the grocery stores, at least here in the Seattle area. I'm guessing across the country because there's a bunch of different types of yogurts that are all popular now. You can get, Greek yogurt and French yogurt and Icelandic yogurt. And so one of the things that we did was we went to the skyr factory. I don't know if factory is quite the right word because they weren't really making the yogurt there, but they did have sort of a history spot of kind of like, here's how it started for when they had made it. And then it was kind of like a restaurant where we had an amazing, it was a lamb dinner. It was so good. It was really, really good. And then they came and brought us the actual skyr, the yogurt, and it's different. You'll like this, Cheryl. Icelandic yogurt, it has a really, really high protein count and relatively low sugar. So it has more protein in it than it has sugar in it. So it's not particularly sweet on its own, which is nice if you're looking for something that has a lot more protein to it. Mm-hmm. But the way that they serve it is really interesting. So it comes in a bowl, just kind of like you kind of see a bowl of cereal. And so it has the yogurt kind of in the middle, and then they pour cream on it. So kind of I don't know if it's a heavy cream or not. And then they would take sugar and they would like sprinkle sugar along the top. And so then you just kind of eat it with a little bit of sugar and with that cream, because it's not, I don't know if sour isn't quite the right word because it's not exactly sour.
Tangy?
Maybe tangy. Like the flavor on its own is not like, ooh, I really, really like this. But when you combine it with the cream and then that little bit of sugar, it's really good.
Cool.
Yeah. So like actually when I came home, I started to just kind of look at the grocery store. I was like, ooh, here's some Icelandic yogurt. And I tried a couple of different brands to see like which one I like. And so that's actually the yogurt that I get now is the Icelandic, because it is more protein, which is really nice, a lot less sugar, which is a little bit better for you. And then also the flavor is it's different and I enjoy it. I mean, I still put, like granola in it and stuff like that. But so the skyr factory or restaurant or whatever in Iceland, it's outside of Reykjavik. It's not actually in the capital. We walked there from our hotel. But I don't remember the name of the city we were in. I can find it if we need it though. So
Ryan, you shared about a food thing.
I did. Aren't you proud of me?
And you have food opinions. You became a yogurt connoisseur or an Icelandic yogurt connoisseur.
Okay, I have a lot of food opinions, Cheryl.
Okay, well, fine. Food appreciation in a new way, maybe?
There you go, yes. Yes. But if you're like, ooh, this is how you make your own yogurt so it can be just the way you want. I'm like, no, I want somebody else to make it for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it.
All right. So I think that's going to do it for our episode this week. Come back next week and we will talk more about travel tips. We'll continue, but we'll move on from packing a little bit, I think.
Yep.
So, all right. We would love for you to follow us. We can kind of post pictures maybe of some of our packing stuff. Maybe we'll post a screenshot of our packing list or something like that. We'll have to see. But you can follow us at TMWY Podcast, TMWY for Take Me With You Podcast, on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
You can also email us at timwepodcast@gmail.com. Send us your packing lists. We would love to see them. Maybe you have questions about packing or questions about other travel topics or maybe other travel tips that you would like us to cover.
Yeah, or maybe you have things not to bring when you travel. That could be cool too. You could call us and leave us a voicemail or send us a text message of those at 406-763-8699. Or if it's easier to remember, 406 Pod Timwe. Please also rate and review us on iTunes so that our rankings kind of move up so more people can find out about us. Share us on social media so other people can hear these cool episodes, and subscribe so that you do not miss an episode when we release it.
As always, thank you to Beth Reed Miller for our awesome artwork. You can check out more of her artwork at Beth Is Something. And thank you to Erica Corbin for the use of her song Round the Globe.
As we said before, please join us again next week for our next episode of the series on travel tips. But until next time, take me with you.
Take me with you.
Can we get a sailboat chasing down the sunset as we float round and round the globe? Salty air and balmy nights, guided only by the lights above. And a little love. Oh, the world is out there waiting to explore, and all our troubles here want them to be